There's something strange about numbers. We see them everywhere, yet most of us never stop to think about what they really mean. We assume they're just tools for measurement, just symbols on a page, just a way to count things. But what if they were something more? What if numbers had power, not just in the way they shape our world, but in the way they shape our minds? What if I told you that there exists an ancient psychological technique hidden for centuries that allows you to unlock the true potential of numbers, not just to understand them, but to use them in ways that most people would never even imagine?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
The truth is, numbers are not just abstract concepts. They are vibrations, patterns, codes that reveal the underlying structure of reality itself, and the ancient world knew this. Long before modern psychology, long before neuroscience, ancient civilizations understood that numbers were more than just mathematical tools. They were keys to unlocking human potential, keys to understanding the mind, keys to influencing the very fabric of existence. The Egyptians, the Greeks, the Chinese mystics, the Indian sages, they all had different ways of accessing this knowledge, but they all understood one fundamental truth. Numbers are alive. They shape the way we think, the way we feel, the way we interact with the world, and if you know how to use them, if you know how to channel their energy, you can change everything. But before I show you how, let me ask you something. Have you ever experienced a moment where a number seemed to follow you? Maybe you kept seeing the same time on the clock, or the same number on receipts, or the same sequence in random places. Did you ever stop to wonder why? Did you ever feel like it was trying to tell you something? Because here's the thing, numbers don't just appear randomly. They are patterns, and your mind is wired to recognize patterns. But what most people don't realize is that the patterns you see are not just coincidences. They are reflections of something deeper, something happening beneath the surface of your conscious awareness. And this is where the ancient psychological technique comes in. Because what if I told you that the numbers you see are actually messages, that they are signals, guiding you, shaping your thoughts, influencing your decisions? And what if I told you that once you learn how to read these signals, once you learn how to harness their power, you can start to control them instead of letting them control you? This is not some mystical superstition. This is real psychology. This is how the brain works. Your mind is constantly scanning for meaning, constantly looking for connections, constantly trying to make sense of the chaos around you. And numbers, when understood correctly, are one of the most powerful tools for creating that meaning. Think about this. Every major decision you've ever made, every belief you hold, every habit you follow, it all comes down to patterns. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine, and the more you understand the patterns that shape your life, the more control you have over them. The ancient technique I'm about to show you is based on this fundamental truth. It is a way of using numbers to rewire your mind, to break free from negative cycles, to unlock levels of awareness that most people will never reach. And the best part? Once you start using this technique, you will begin to see the world differently. You will start noticing things you never noticed before. You will start understanding why certain things happen the way they do, and you will realize that numbers, far from being just abstract symbols, are the hidden code shaping your reality. But before I reveal how it works, I need you to do something. I need you to think about a number that has appeared in your life recently, a number that keeps showing up, a number that feels like it means something, but you're not sure why. Hold that number in your mind, because in a moment, you're going to see it in a completely different way. Here's where the ancient technique comes into play. The first step is awareness. Most people go through life completely unaware of the patterns around them. They see numbers, but they don't pay attention. They experience synchronicities, but they dismiss them as coincidences. The key to unlocking the power of numbers is to start noticing them, to start paying attention, to start keeping track of when and where they appear. Because the moment you start observing them, something incredible happens. You begin to see the hidden connection. You begin to realize that numbers are not random. They are signs, they are clues. They are guiding you towards something. The second step is interpretation. Every number carries a vibration, an energy, a meaning. The ancients understood this. They developed entire systems, numerology, sacred geometry, mathematical mysticism to decode the messages hidden in numbers. But you don't need to study ancient texts to understand this. You just need to start asking the right questions. When a number appears in your life, ask yourself, what was I thinking about in that moment? What decision was I about to make? What emotion was I feeling? Because numbers don't just appear randomly, they appear at key moments. They appear when you need guidance, when you need confirmation, when you need to be reminded of something important. The third step is alignment. This is where the real power comes in, because once you start noticing the numbers, once you start interpreting their messages, you can begin to align yourself with them. You can start using them as tools for transformation. You can start setting intentions with them, meditating on them, programming your mind to recognize their energy and use it to your advantage. This is what the ancient masters knew. They didn't just observe numbers, they worked with them. They used them in rituals, in meditations, in decision-making. They understood that numbers are not just passive symbols, they are active forces. And when you align yourself with them, when you tune into their frequency, you gain access to a level of awareness that most people will never reach. But here's the most important part. This technique is not just about seeing numbers, it's about seeing yourself. Because numbers are mirrors. They reflect back to you what is happening inside. They reveal your subconscious thoughts, your deepest fears, your hidden desires. And if you are willing to pay attention, if you are willing to listen, they will guide you exactly where you need to go. So here's my question to you. If you knew that numbers could reveal the truth about your life, would you be brave enough to look? Because once you start using this technique, once you start seeing the patterns, you can never unsee them. You will begin to recognize the cycles in your life. You will begin to understand why things happen the way they do, and you will realize that the power of numbers is not in the numbers themselves, it's in the way they shape your mind. Now, here's what I want you to do. Over the next 24 hours, I want you to start paying attention to the numbers that appear in your life. I want you to write them down. I want you to notice when they show up, what you were thinking about, what you were feeling in that moment. And I want you to ask yourself, what is this number trying to tell me? Because the moment you start doing this, the moment you start truly paying attention, you will see something incredible happen. The numbers will no longer be random. They will start speaking to you. They will start guiding you. They will start unlocking something inside of you that has been waiting to wake up. And once that happens, once you begin to see the hidden patterns in your life, everything will change. You will no longer feel like a passive observer in your own story. You will begin to realize that you have the power to shape your reality, and that is the true power of this ancient psychological technique. It is not just about numbers, it is about awakening, it is about transformation, it is about seeing the world in a way that most people will never see it. Are you ready for that? Because if you are, then pay attention. The numbers are already speaking to you. The only question is, will you listen? Numbers are not just mathematical tools, they are psychological markers embedded in the way we perceive reality. The moment you start paying attention, you will notice something strange. Certain numbers appear in your life more often than others, as if they are trying to tell you something. But here's the deeper truth. It's not the numbers themselves that carry power, it's your mind's relationship with them. The ancient psychological technique that unlocks the power of numbers is not about superstition or mystical beliefs. It is about understanding that your brain is a pattern detection machine, constantly scanning for meaning in the chaos of life. Numbers are one of the most fundamental patterns in existence. And when you know how to work with them instead of passively observing them, you can begin to shape your perception, your decisions, and ultimately your destiny. The human brain craves order. It looks for structure in an otherwise overwhelming world. This is why we are drawn to numbers. They give us a sense of control, a way to measure and categorize our experience. But what if I told you that numbers don't just reflect reality, they create it? Think about it. Every major system that governs our lives, money, time, science, technology, is based on numbers. Numbers define the way we interact with the world, and yet most people never stop to question why certain numbers seem to follow them, why patterns emerge when they least expect them, why they feel a strange connection to specific numerical sequences. The ancient psychological technique that unlocks the power of numbers is based on a simple but profound concept. Your perception shapes your reality. The numbers you notice, the ones that stand out to you, are not appearing at random. They are the result of your subconscious mind filtering through the infinite data around you and selecting what it deems important. But here's the critical insight. Most people let this process happen unconsciously. They see numbers, they feel something, but they don't engage with that feeling. They assume it's a coincidence. But what if you could take control of this process? What if you could train your mind to recognize the numbers that align with your goals, your path, your highest potential? This is where the real power of the technique comes into play. The first step is intentional recognition. Instead of passively noticing numbers, you need to start actively engaging with them. When a number appears in your life repeatedly, don't just brush it off. Ask yourself, why is this number showing up now? What does it represent in my life? What decision am I about to make? The act of asking these questions forces your brain to shift from passive perception to active interpretation. It engages your analytical and intuitive faculties simultaneously, allowing you to extract meaning in a way that most people never do. The second step is association and reinforcement. Once you notice a number, you need to anchor it to something meaningful. The reason this step is so powerful is because the human brain works through association. Every belief you hold, every habit you follow, every decision you make is based on mental associations that have been reinforced over time. When you consciously associate a number with a specific goal, mindset, or emotional state, you begin to rewire your brain to recognize opportunities, insights, and actions that align with that number. For example, if you keep seeing the number 5 and you decide to associate it with transformation and change, your mind will start filtering reality in a way that makes you more aware of changes happening around you. You will notice opportunities for growth that you might have ignored before. You will feel more aligned with the energy of transformation. This is not magic. This is psychology. This is how the brain works. The third step is numerical intention setting. This is where the technique moves from observation to action. Once you have recognized a number and associated it with a specific meaning, you can start using it as a tool for psychological conditioning. This is the same principle behind affirmations, visualization, and neuro-linguistic programming. By repeatedly exposing yourself to a number that holds deep meaning for you, you reinforce its presence in your subconscious mind. You can do this by writing it down, setting reminders, meditating on it, or even incorporating it into your daily decisions. The more you engage with the number, the more it becomes a psychological anchor, a trigger that aligns your thoughts and actions with your desired reality. But here's where it gets even deeper. Numbers don't just influence the individual mind, they influence collective consciousness. This is why certain numbers carry universal significance, why people across different cultures and time periods have assigned similar meanings to numbers like 3, 7, and 9. These numbers appear in religious texts, ancient philosophies, and sacred architecture. They resonate at a level beyond personal psychology. They tap into something fundamental about the way humans perceive the universe. And when you understand this, you realize that numbers are not just personal guides. They are keys to understanding the collective patterns that shape human history, society, and even the nature of reality itself. So let me ask you something. What number has been appearing in your life recently, and what if it's not just a coincidence? What if it's a reflection of something happening deep within you, something that you have been trying to understand but haven't been able to put into words? When you see that number again, don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it. Engage with it. Ask yourself, what is this number trying to show me? What pattern am I caught in? What change is waiting to happen in my life? Because once you start asking these questions, once you start actively working with numbers instead of passively observing them, you will begin to see something incredible. Your mind will start shifting. Your perception will expand. You will begin to notice connections and opportunities that were invisible to you before. And that is when you will realize the true power of this ancient technique. It's not just about numbers, it's about awareness. It's about breaking free from unconscious patterns and stepping into a life of intentionality and alignment. Numbers are just the tool. The real transformation happens within you. So here's what I want you to do. Over the next 24 hours, I want you to pick a number that resonates with you. It could be one that has been appearing in your life or one that you feel drawn to. I want you to write it down. I want you to think about what it means to you, and I want you to start looking for it. Pay attention to when and where it appears. Notice what you're thinking about when you see it, and most importantly, set an intention with it. Decide what that number is going to represent in your life. Because the moment you do this, the moment you make this conscious decision, you will start to see reality shift. The number will no longer just be a coincidence. It will become a guide, a signal, a tool for transformation. This is how the ancient masters worked with numbers. They didn't just use them for counting, they used them to shape their consciousness, to align their minds with the deeper patterns of reality. And now you have the same opportunity. You can choose to dismiss this as just another idea, another theory, or you can take action. You can start applying this technique right now. And if you do, if you truly commit to it, you will begin to see the world in a way you never have before. So tell me, are you ready to unlock the power of numbers? Because if you are, then the first step is simple. Pay attention. The numbers are already speaking to you. The only question is, will you listen? The moment you decide to listen, everything changes. Numbers are no longer just random symbols, no longer just coincidences. They become signals, guiding you, shaping your awareness, revealing the deeper patterns of your life. You start to notice things that were always there but hidden in plain sight. You begin to see connections between events, between choices, between emotions. And suddenly, numbers are no longer passive, they are active forces shaping the way you think, the way you feel, the way you move through the world. But here's the question that most people never ask. If numbers can shape perception, can they also shape reality? Can they be used not just to understand the world, but to change it? This is where the ancient psychological technique goes from theory to application. Because once you understand that numbers are psychological triggers, once you see that they influence thought, emotion, and decision-making, you realize something profound. Numbers are not just reflections of reality, they are tools for creating it. And if you know how to use them, if you know how to align your mind with their patterns, you can begin to direct your own life with a level of precision and intention that most people will never experience. So how does this work? How do you take numbers from passive observations to active forces in your life? The key is numerical conditioning, training your mind to use numbers as triggers for specific mental states, behaviors, and outcomes. This technique has been used for centuries in different forms. Ancient philosophers, mystics, and psychologists all understood that the human mind is highly susceptible to numerical influence. They embedded numbers in religious rituals, in sacred architecture, in philosophical teachings. They understood that numbers, when repeated, when ritualized, when deeply embedded in the subconscious, could alter perception, create discipline, and even unlock higher states of awareness. The first step in numerical conditioning is association reinforcement. This means taking the number that has appeared in your life and assigning it a specific meaning, one that aligns with your goals, your values, your desired transformation. For example, if you choose the number 8 and associate it with abundance, then every time you see 8, your mind will subconsciously reinforce the idea of financial growth, success, and stability. Over time, this creates a psychological anchor. The number 8 becomes a trigger for abundant thought patterns. And here's where it gets powerful. When your mind is conditioned to a certain pattern, it begins to filter reality in a way that aligns with that pattern. You start noticing opportunities for financial growth that you would have ignored before. You start making decisions that align with abundance instead of scarcity. You shift your entire perception of what is possible. The second step is numerical visualization. This is where you actively engage with the number, rather than just waiting for it to appear. This technique has been used in everything from meditation to sports psychology to high-performance training. The idea is simple. When you visualize a number that is deeply associated with a psychological state, you reinforce that state in your subconscious mind. This is why athletes visualize their performances, why successful entrepreneurs obsess over financial figures, why monks chant numerical mantras. They are embedding the frequency of that number into their mental framework, making it a part of their core identity. So here's what I want you to do. Take the number you've been focusing on, close your eyes, visualize it appearing in different places throughout your day. See it on billboards, on receipts, on clocks. Imagine it surrounding you, reinforcing its meaning in your life. Feel the emotion that it represents, whether it's strength, success, transformation, or clarity. The more vividly you do this, the more deeply it embeds into your subconscious. And once it's there, once it becomes a part of your psychological fabric, it will start to shape your actions in ways you won't even realize. The third step is numerical embodiment. This is where you start to live in alignment with the number, using it as a guiding principle in your daily life. If you associate 5 with change, then you should actively seek out new experiences, take risks, break routines. If you associate 7 with wisdom, then you should spend time in deep study, reflection, and inner exploration. The number is no longer just a symbol, it becomes a lifestyle. This is why ancient traditions assigned deep meaning to numbers. They understood that numbers were not just abstract concepts, but blueprints for action. They were guides for how to live, how to think, how to evolve. And that brings us to the final, most powerful aspect of this technique, numerical synchronicity recognition. This is when numbers start working for you instead of you working for them. This is when you no longer just see patterns, you create them. When you are fully in tune with a number, when it is deeply embedded in your subconscious, something incredible happens. You start to see it at exactly the right moments. You start to feel it guiding your decisions. You start to experience synchronicities, events that seem too perfectly timed to be coincidences. And this is where people often mistake this process for magic. But it's not magic, it's psychology. It's the power of the mind aligning with the deeper patterns of existence. Because here's something most people don't realize. Your brain is a frequency emitter. The thoughts you focus on, the patterns you believe in, the numbers you align with, they don't just stay inside your head. They radiate outward. They influence the way you interact with the world. They shape the way you communicate, the way you attract opportunities, the way you move through life. And when you train your mind to recognize, interpret, and align with numbers in an intentional way, you begin to shift the probabilities of your reality. You begin to create a gravitational pull toward the experiences, the insights, and the breakthroughs that align with your numerical framework. And this is where I need to ask you something. If you had the ability to consciously shape your perception, to direct your mind toward the exact experiences you desire, would you use it? Or would you let life happen to you by default? Because that's the real choice here. Most people go through life unconsciously, reacting to patterns instead of creating them. They see numbers, but they don't engage with them. They experience synchronicities, but they dismiss them as coincidences. They feel drawn to certain patterns, but they never stop to ask why. And because of this, they remain passive observers in their own reality. But you don't have to be one of them. You can take control. You can use this technique to shape your awareness, to align your mind with the deeper structures of existence, to unlock a level of intentionality that most people will never reach. And once you do, once you truly commit to this process, you will start to see the world in a way that most people can't. You will start to notice the hidden order behind what seems like chaos. You will begin to understand that numbers are not just symbols, not just tools for counting, they are the language of reality itself. And when you learn to speak that language, you gain access to a level of understanding, a level of power that goes beyond what you ever thought possible. So, here's my final challenge to you. Over the next 7 days, I want you to fully commit to this technique. Choose a number, define its meaning, reinforce it through visualization, embody it in your daily actions, and most importantly, track the synchronicities. Pay attention to when and where the number appears. Notice how it aligns with your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions. And at the end of the 7 days, ask yourself, did my perception change? Did my awareness expand? Did I begin to see patterns that were invisible to me before? Because if you do this, if you truly engage with this process, you will realize something that very few people ever understand. You are not just a participant in reality. You are a creator of it. And numbers, they are just one of the many tools available to you. The only question is, now that you know this, what will you do with it?